your topic for today that you discussed in your meeting about Juma, right? Focus and emphasize like what is the importance and significance of Juma. So if you can just briefly tell us what you discussed.
So when we were mainly talking about Friday prayer, we were still actually almost wrapping up with ours. But we began with the 6 merits of Friday prayer. We talked about 6 reasons why Friday is so significant. Should I name them? Okay. Okay. And some other members also talked about other ones that I didn't know. So if I happen to forget them, please remind me. The first one that we talked about was how Friday came to be decided. It was for historical reasons. The Saturday was a Jewish dedicated day. The reason escapes me right now. I believe it was because that's when they believed that they were...
Keep them up.
I believe that's when they were believed to be freed by Allah from the Pharaoh. And Sunday was dedicated to the Christians, although they say they believe that's when Jesus has ascended to heaven, although there's no specific proclamation from Prophet Jesus that Sunday was to be a dedicated day. That was the first merit. The second was that Adam was born on Friday. And the third was also that he has died on Friday. The fourth was that he was sent to heaven as a prophet, sent to earth as a prophet. The fifth was there was a specific hour on Friday where one can pray for lawful and good things, and they will be rewarded, inshallah. And the sixth, and what we kind of agreed was the more important one, or the most important, was that is a prescribed day that resurrection will happen. So that's how we opened our talk on Juma. And then we mostly talked about the requirements on what makes a Juma prayer valid. Mostly cleanliness, or staying clean. Making sure you're not disturbing anyone else's peace. So, no climbing over people's shoulders, making sure everyone's in their own state of zen. We did talk about how, obviously, no talking during the prayer. Even trying to hush somebody else while they're talking is frowned upon. Let's see. Anyone else thought of anything that I'm missing here?
The khutbah is part of the prayer?
Yes, the khutbah is a very important part of the prayer. It said that without the khutbah, you have no Friday prayer. So it's important to be as early as possible so you can get the full khutbah and pay full attention to it. What else am I missing here?
What is the pre-request for Juma?
Okay, so the pre-requirements. So from what we discussed, there's 2 categories of prerequisites. There's one of essentials and one of validity. If you're missing the one of essentials, it's usually for a good reason, and if you still offer the prayer with this, it's still considered valid. These 5 essentials are if you are a male. So if you are a female, you're not required to go to Friday prayer, but it won't be invalidated if you do. The second is that you are an adult. If you're a child, it's not required, but once again, it's good if you do. The third is that you are sane. If you have some any impairment, then that's fine too. The fourth is that you are healthy, and the fifth is that you are free. anyone under oppression or slavery as such is not required to. So these are the essential ones that we discussed, and if you happen to be missing one but still offer the Friday prayer, it's still valid. The other 5 are those of validity, and if you're missing one of these, the prayer is not considered valid. The first was that it takes place in a larger environment, such as a city or village, or large enough village. No praying in the middle of the jungle. No praying in a smaller village. The second was that there is, again, the khutbah. So, without the khutbah, there is no Friday prayer. The third is that it takes place in the time of Zohar. If it's not taking place in the time of Zohar, it's not valid. The fourth was that it is in an accessible place. If it's hard for many people to reach, then it's not a valid place to have Friday prayer. Forgetting the fifth.
Okay. Maybe go to next. What was Muhammad's period upon Sunnah, how he used to prepare for Jummah?
So he would always prepare for Jummah by taking care of any kinds of cleanliness things, so cutting the nails or cutting excess hair on the Thursday night before Friday prayer. This was something he regularly did, and it's considered sunnah. We also do this as well. It's considered the Thursday night before Jummah prayer is considered a white night, and then the Friday is considered a bright day. He would always make sure that the prayer is offered in congregation, meaning that this is the one prayer that should not be prayed individually. It's also considered invalid if you do so individually. I believe the minimum requirement is at least the imam and 3 other followers.
Okay, now we have 2 questions you can ask as adult. Is how many rakat and what is actual khutbah? Part A, part B are both khutbah, or is part B is khutbah, right? That's the question you have. So
Well, it wasn't really a question. These are both, those 2 parts are part of the khutbah. It's just that they make a distinction that I notice is not always followed, so I'm not sure how strict it is, but I can get into it.
okay, you go.
So, they say one of the requirements, or at least the regulations of the khutbah, is that it's in 2 parts. The first part is, according to what we studied, the first part is dedicated to religious instruction and enticing action to follow upon that instruction. The second part, again, according to what we read, is mostly regulated to reciting verses from the Quran, invoking Allah for blessings upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the third was to seek forgiveness for his companions. One interesting thing that we came up with that we're still looking for validation on is that there was a practice back in Rasulullah's time that the sermon should be shorter than the prayer. And a summarized quote that we read was that one who keeps the sermon short and the prayer elongated shows and proves his religious wisdom. And then what was the other question? Rakats. So it depends. We came up with something that kind of touches on the divides of the 4 main traditions. That was the amount of sunnah rakats that you pray during the Jummah prayer. On one hand, they said that there are 8 sunnah rakats, 4 before the 2 main Jummah and 4 after. And on the other, there was 10 sunnah rakats, 4 before, 4, and then 2 after. So I think we're largely agreeing upon the latter for now, until something else tells us that's not good.
Verified, yeah.
Right.
Alright, anybody have any questions?
No, very good. MashaAllah, very good. Very good. Very good. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah.
Well prepared.
Very important.
Well prepared.
As you know, Friday prayers is a replacement of Dhuhr. So any rakah you perform on the day of like Friday for Jummah, all intention for Jummah prayers, not for Sunnah, not for only 2 rakah first when you pray in the congregation form, but you do 4 rakah before, 4 rakah after, and 2 rakah nafil. Every rakah you make intention. Intention is for Jummah. So it's a replacement of Dhuhr prayers on the day of Jummah. And for regular Muslim people, it's like a Eid. It's a, that we have 2 Eid. Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Dhuhr, 2 Eid. But Jummah is also considered Eid for Muslims. So that's why we have a special preparation. You have to be perform bath, ghusl, wear special clothes, perfumes. So all those requirements, because this is a special day. So inshallah, whatever we learn today, we try to adopt as a regular practice. Jazakallah khair.